4 things to know about GMT watches. The modern gentleman will probably spend a good portion of his time travelling the world by jet, whether for business or pleasure. Although these journeys can be enjoyable, they can also present several challenges. Jet lag and lost luggage are both aggravating, but nothing compares to the agony of forgetting the time or date. Enter the GMT watch, a wrist-strapped saviour that every traveller should purchase to ensure that they always arrive on time, whenever or wherever they travel, whether it be for meetings, supper or simply lounging on the beach. Greetings from our channel once more. We shall talk about 4 things about GMT watches in this video. The design is ideal for keeping track of time because it has 2 time zones. GMT watches always have more hands than the standard seconds, minutes and hours hands. Every 24 hours a second time zone will be displayed by an additional hand that moves around the dial and reads off the bezel, marked with 24-hour marks. What precisely is a GMT watch then? Similar to diving watches which are meant to function underwater, a GMT watch is a type of tool watch or timepiece created to achieve a specific goal. However, a GMT watch aims to simultaneously display the time in several time zones using the same dial and mechanism. You can see how useful this feature is for international travellers, pilots and flight crews. There are various styles of GMT watches, from the most unique, exquisite and complex to the most basic and robust, but most operate with a double-hour handset to 2 separate time zones. Besides the extremely discreet extra hand that tracks the hours, conventional GMTs are mechanical timepieces that use mechanical movement and are frequently automated. However, some utilise a useful 24-hour dial display instead of the typical 12. This is what the Glycine Airman, the first GMT watch ever created and released in 1953, illustrates. It came out a year before the most well-known GMT, the Rolex GMT Master, and features a 24-hour display on the dial. This saves us from having to perform complicated mental calculations to determine whether it's day or night in the time zone we're interested in. Here are 4 things that you need to be aware of. Number 1. How to set and read a GMT watch. The bezel should be positioned at noon to set a GMT with a static GMT hand. The GMT hand will be in line with the time right now, depending on where you are in the time zone. You would turn the bezel left or right to tell the time in a different city. If the second time zone is behind, you will turn the bezel clockwise. You will turn the bezel the other way if the time zone were ahead. Employing the bezel. The GMT hand might be fixed to the hour hand of your watch. The GMT hand will adjust along with the local times as you do so. You might only turn the bezel to align with the correct hour for the second time zone. There have been motion improvements and several brand product models now include separate GMT hands. To make setting the time simple, the bezel still spins in both directions. Number 3. Utilising a separate GMT hand. The hour hand can be quickly moved while the GMT hand remains stationary on a watch with an independent hand, such as the contemporary GMT Master 2. Set the GMT hand to local time and the 24-hour scale to its original position, with 12 o'clock aligned with 24 to use this variant of the GMT function. The hour hand should then be set to the current time on a 12-hour clock. Now that you are tracking a second time zone, you can allow it using the bezel. This is also how a watch with printed scale on the dial should be set. Number 4. How to track a third time zone using GMT. The GMT hand and 24-hour bezel can be used to track the third time zone because many current features include the independent GMT hand. Setting the GMT hand to the current GMT and the hour to the local time will create a third time zone. The third time zone can then be set by rotating the bezel, using GMT as a reference for how many hours to add or subtract. Depending on where you are, you can rotate the bezel clockwise or counterclockwise. The hour hand would then read your local time as the bezel aligned with the third time zone and GMT hand. It is significant to notice that the bezel would need to be rotated back to read the time in the second time zone. So, you don't travel much? No, most likely not. Like most of us, you don't frequently board and depart aircraft, necessitating frequent resetting to local time. Red-eye flights to distant parts of the globe are typically not a part of your life because you have a job, a family, and other commitments. Then how does the GMT watch benefit you? It's probably a good idea to be aware of other people's local time if you collaborate online with people from all over the world, or if your business has a satellite office on another coast. A GMT watch is a simple maintenance-free solution to keep various time zones in your awareness. Have relatives who live far away? Knowing that you won't be calling them during the mealtime is a smart idea. Do you have an hour by which you must work to be completed? Subtract the remaining amount of time from 0 on the GMT hand. When that hand goes straight up, your time is also up. What effect has it had on you? We have so far examined the uses, functionality, and overall usability. Let's now think about the reason. Why might you think about getting a GMT watch, and how might you wear one? For the class. The convenience of having a watch that can effortlessly track many time zones goes beyond mere utility. The odds are that as soon as you land and use the free airport Wi-Fi on your way to the baggage claim, you'll check the time zone information on your phone. The GMT watch, however, reveals something about you. It loudly declares to everyone that you are a global citizen with knowledge and experience in various regions. Even though you are now at home, your watch has one eye on the time in London and the other is prepared to determine the touchdown time in Shanghai. Since it isn't your phone. Yes, we know that you're likely to use any hub spots, including Wi-Fi in the airport and other local public hotspots, including the opportunity to use your phone as a watch. It still isn't justified by that, or at least the most effective course of action. Almost anybody can, and often does, pull out their phone to look up anything. Still, you quickly get lost in the seductive digital world that tempts you to check that message, think about those likes and reply to every text, no matter how unimportant. Compare that to a calm glance at your priceless watch. Both you and others will notice the difference in how you feel and your deft action. Does a GMT watch make sense? A watch with a GMT function is unquestionably an excellent travel companion for anyone who frequently travels abroad for work or pleasures and likes watch with a sporting edge. GMTs frequently fall into this category of timepieces. To sum up, there is no denying that the history of GMT watches and clocks that track several time zones in general are fascinating and transports us to a time where there was still plenty to learn and organise. The idea of time zones today, when private agency spaceships are beginning to depart, transporting freight and space tourists into orbit, might make us chuckle. However, perhaps this was what makes GMT watches' classic appeal so alluring. That's all for this video. We'll be back soon with another informative video. See you soon.